You've probably wondered why the night feels so much heavier when you're alone with your thoughts. Why darkness seems to amplify every worry, every unresolved feeling, every shadow of doubt that quietly sleeps in your mind during the day but awakens with vengeance when the world goes silent. You lie there, and suddenly your brain becomes this relentless theater where every mistake replays in high definition, every future fear takes center stage, and every deep question about your purpose, your relationships, your very existence demands immediate answers that you simply don't have. But what if I told you that Carl Jung, the revolutionary Swiss psychiatrist, discovered something profound about this phenomenon over a century ago? Something that doesn't just explain why you feel this way, but reveals a hidden psychological truth that could completely transform how you experience those heavy nighttime hours. Something so powerful that once you understand it, you'll never see your introversion or your relationship with solitude the same way again. Because here's what Jung realized, and what most people still don't understand today. That heaviness you feel at night, that overwhelming flood of thoughts and emotions, that sense of being crushed by your own inner world, it's not a weakness. It's not a flaw in your personality. It's actually your psyche trying to communicate something incredibly important to you. Something that extroverts rarely experience because their energy flows outward, but something that you, as an introvert, are uniquely equipped to receive. Jung called this the descent into the unconscious. And for introverts, night becomes the sacred portal where this descent naturally occurs. Think about it for a moment. During the day, you're managing external demands, social interactions, work responsibilities. Your conscious mind is busy processing the external world, filtering stimuli, maintaining your social mask. But when night falls and the external world quiets down, something remarkable happens in your psyche. The protective barriers between your conscious and unconscious mind begin to soften. The thoughts, feelings, memories, and insights that were suppressed during your busy day suddenly have space to emerge. But here's where it gets fascinating, and where Jung's insight becomes revolutionary. Most people think this nighttime heaviness is random anxiety or overthinking. They try to shut it down, distract themselves, or medicate it away. But Jung discovered that for introverts, this is actually your psyche's most creative and transformative time. It's when your unconscious mind, rich with wisdom and insights that your daytime consciousness couldn't access, finally has the quiet space to communicate with you. You see, Jung understood that introverts have a fundamentally different relationship with their inner world than extroverts do. While extroverts recharge through external stimulation and social interaction, introverts recharge through internal processing and reflection. But more than that, introverts have what Jung called a stronger connection to the collective unconscious, that deeper layer of the psyche that contains universal human experiences, archetypal patterns, and profound wisdom. This is why your nighttime thoughts aren't just random worries. They're often connected to deeper themes, universal human struggles, archetypal patterns that have existed throughout human history. That anxiety about your future isn't just about your specific circumstances. It's tapping into the universal human fear of the unknown, the archetypal journey of the hero facing uncertainty. That sadness about relationships isn't just about your personal experiences. It's connecting you to the universal human longing for connection and understanding. And this is where Jung's discovery becomes life-changing for introverts. He realized that if you can learn to approach these nighttime descents with curiosity instead of resistance, with acceptance instead of fear, they become incredible opportunities for psychological growth, creative insight, and spiritual development. But before I share the specific techniques Jung developed for transforming these heavy nights into powerful tools for personal evolution, I want you to do something. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what I'm about to share in the second part of this exploration could fundamentally change how you experience not just your nights, but your entire relationship with your inner world. Because Jung didn't just identify this phenomenon, he created practical methods for working with it, techniques that can help you transform those overwhelming nighttime hours from sources of suffering into wellsprings of wisdom. Methods that thousands of introverts have used to not just survive their heavy nights, but to thrive because of them. Think about the last time you had one of those heavy nights. Maybe it was last week, maybe it was last night. You're lying there, and suddenly your mind is flooded with concerns about a conversation you had or didn't have, worries about whether you're living up to your potential, deep existential questions about the meaning of your life, the authenticity of your relationships, the direction of your future. Most people would tell you to just stop thinking about it, to distract yourself with TV or social media, to take something to help you sleep. But Jung would tell you something completely different. He'd say that your psyche is actually trying to give you a gift that only emerges in the quiet darkness when your conscious defenses are down and your deeper wisdom can finally speak. You see, Jung spent decades studying what he called the process of individuation, the psychological journey toward becoming your authentic self. And he discovered that for introverts, much of this crucial inner work happens during these quiet, reflective periods that others might dismiss as overthinking or anxiety. But here's the key insight that changes everything. Jung realized that the content of your nighttime thoughts isn't random. It follows specific patterns, archetypal themes that reveal exactly what your psyche is trying to help you understand about yourself and your life. When you're lying there worrying about whether people really understand you, your unconscious might be working with what Jung called the archetypal pattern of the misunderstood sage, helping you recognize that your depth and complexity are gifts, not burdens. When you're questioning whether you're on the right path in life, you might be engaging with the archetypal journey of the seeker, and your psyche is helping you clarify your authentic values and direction. When you're feeling overwhelmed by the suffering in the world, the pain of others, the complexity of human existence, your unconscious might be connecting you to what Jung called the wounded healer archetype, preparing you to transform your own sensitivity and depth into sources of healing and wisdom for others. This is why Jung believed that introverts often become the philosophers, the artists, the therapists, the spiritual teachers of society, not despite their heavy nights, but because of them. Because they're willing to descend into the depths of the human experience, to sit with the difficult questions, to feel the full weight of existence, and then to emerge with insights that can benefit not just themselves, but all of humanity. But I want to be completely honest with you about something important. This process isn't always comfortable. Jung himself went through what he called his confrontation with the unconscious, a period of intense inner turmoil that nearly drove him to the edge of sanity. He experienced what many introverts know intimately, those dark nights of the soul, where the weight of inner exploration becomes almost unbearable. And this is where Jung's work becomes not just insightful, but essential for your psychological safety, because he learned how to navigate these deep waters without drowning in them. He developed specific techniques for engaging with the unconscious safely and productively, methods that can help you transform overwhelming nighttime experiences into manageable and meaningful encounters with your deeper self. The first technique Jung discovered is what he called active imagination. Instead of being passively overwhelmed by your nighttime thoughts and feelings, you learn to engage with them actively and consciously. You don't try to shut them down or escape from them. Instead, you create a kind of inner dialogue with them. Let's say you're lying there consumed with worry about a relationship in your life. Instead of just spinning in circles of anxiety, you might ask that worry directly what it's trying to tell you. What does it know that your conscious mind might be missing? What wisdom does it contain about your needs, your boundaries, your authentic feelings in this relationship? Or maybe you're flooded with sadness about the state of the world, feeling overwhelmed by suffering and injustice. Instead of just drowning in that sadness, you might ask it what it's calling you toward, how your sensitivity to suffering might be preparing you to contribute to healing in some way, what actions your compassion might be guiding you to take. This active engagement transforms you from a victim of your own inner world into an active participant in your psychological development. You're no longer at the mercy of overwhelming thoughts and feelings. You're in conscious relationship with them. But Jung discovered something even more powerful than active imagination. He found that these nighttime descents often contain what he called compensatory messages. Your unconscious is actually trying to balance out whatever your conscious mind has been overdoing or neglecting. If you've been too focused on pleasing others during the day, your nighttime thoughts might flood you with awareness of your own neglected needs. If you've been avoiding a difficult decision, your unconscious might present you with dreams or insights that clarify your authentic feelings. If you've been disconnected from your creative or spiritual side, your heavy nights might be calling you back to those essential parts of yourself. This is why Jung believed that paying attention to these nighttime experiences isn't self-indulgent or unhealthy. For introverts especially, it's actually a form of psychological hygiene, a way of maintaining balance and authenticity in your inner world. And here's where this understanding becomes practically transformative for your daily life. When you start approaching your heavy nights as communications from your unconscious, rather than random attacks of anxiety or depression, you begin to develop what Jung called a relationship with your inner wisdom. You start to notice patterns. Maybe your nighttime heaviness always intensifies when you've been compromising your authentic values for too long. Maybe it emerges when you've been neglecting your need for solitude and reflection. Maybe it increases when you're in relationships or situations that don't honor your depth and sensitivity. These patterns become incredibly valuable information for making conscious choices about your life. Your heavy nights stop being mysterious afflictions and start being reliable sources of guidance about what your psyche needs for health and authenticity. But now I want to share with you the most profound discovery Jung made about this phenomenon, something that will fundamentally change how you see not just your heavy nights, but your entire purpose as an introvert in this world. Jung realized that introverts who learn to work skillfully with their nighttime descents don't just heal their own psychological wounds. They develop what he called the transcendent function, the ability to bridge conscious and unconscious wisdom in ways that benefit not just themselves, but everyone around them. You see, when you stop running from your heavy nights and start engaging with them consciously, something remarkable begins to happen. You develop a kind of psychological depth and wisdom that becomes incredibly valuable in your relationships, your work, your creative expressions, and your contributions to the world. Think about the people in your life who you turn to when you're struggling with deep questions or difficult emotions. Chances are, many of them are introverts who have learned to sit with complexity, to hold space for difficult feelings, to offer insights that come from genuine inner exploration rather than surface-level platitudes. This is what Jung meant when he said that introverts often become the containers for the collective shadow, the holders of the depth and complexity that extroverted society often wants to avoid or suppress. But instead of being overwhelmed by this role, you can learn to fulfill it consciously and skillfully. When you understand that your nighttime heaviness is actually your psyche preparing you for this deeper role in the world, everything changes. Those overwhelming thoughts about human suffering stop being just personal torture and start being preparation for genuine compassion. Those existential questions about meaning and purpose stop being sources of anxiety and start being the foundation for authentic wisdom. But Jung was very clear about something crucial. This transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires what he called conscious suffering, the willingness to feel your difficult emotions fully without being overwhelmed by them, to sit with your deepest questions without demanding immediate answers, to hold space for complexity without collapsing into confusion. And this is where Jung's specific techniques become absolutely essential, because conscious suffering isn't about drowning in your emotions or being paralyzed by your thoughts. It's about developing the psychological skills to engage with deep inner material safely and productively. The second technique Jung developed is what he called dream work. And for introverts, this becomes incredibly powerful during those heavy nighttime periods. Often, the intensity of your nighttime thoughts is accompanied by vivid dreams or the emergence of symbolic imagery in your mind. Instead of dismissing these as random brain activity, Jung encourages you to pay careful attention to them. Your dreams during heavy periods often contain precisely the insights your conscious mind needs to understand what your psyche is trying to communicate. Let's say you're going through a period where your nights are filled with anxiety about your career direction. You might start having dreams about being lost in a forest, or trying to find your way home, or being given a map that you can't quite read. Jung would say that your unconscious is working with archetypal symbols to help you understand your situation more deeply. The forest might represent the unknown territory you're navigating in your career transition. The map you can't read might suggest that you already have the guidance you need, but you're not yet ready to understand it consciously. The journey home might indicate that your career anxiety is really about finding your authentic path, not just any path. By learning to work with these dream symbols, you transform confusing nighttime anxiety into clear guidance about your life direction. Your heavy nights become collaborative sessions with your own inner wisdom. But Jung discovered something even more profound about this process. He found that introverts who learn to work skillfully with their nighttime descents often develop what he called prophetic insight, the ability to sense patterns and possibilities that others miss. This isn't mystical or supernatural, it's psychological. When you're regularly connecting with the deeper layers of the psyche, When you're paying attention to archetypal patterns and collective themes, you start to notice things about human nature, social dynamics, and cultural trends that people focused only on surface-level reality often miss. Many of the great artists, writers, philosophers, and social innovators throughout history have been introverts who learned to mine their heavy nighttime experiences for insight and creativity. They transformed their psychological depth into contributions that enriched all of human culture. And this brings me to what might be the most important insight Jung offers to introverts struggling with heavy nights: your sensitivity, your depth, your tendency to feel things intensely. These aren't bugs in your psychological system. They're features. They're precisely what equips you to fulfill roles in the world that others simply cannot fulfill. But here's what's crucial to understand. This transformation requires you to stop seeing your introversion as something to overcome or fix. Society often sends introverts the message that their inward focus is selfish, their need for solitude is antisocial, their emotional depth is excessive. Jung completely rejected this perspective. He argued that introverts serve an essential function in human culture, providing depth, reflection, and connection to meaning that balances the extroverted focus on action, stimulation, and external achievement. Your heavy nights aren't evidence that something is wrong with you. They're evidence that you're designed for a different kind of contribution to the world, a contribution that requires depth instead of breadth, quality instead of quantity, meaning instead of efficiency. But Jung also understood that this can be a lonely path. Living in an extroverted world while maintaining your commitment to inner depth and authenticity requires tremendous courage and self-compassion. This is why he emphasized the importance of what he called individuation, the process of becoming genuinely yourself rather than what others expect you to be. For introverts, this often means honoring your need for solitude, even when others call it antisocial, trusting your inner wisdom even when it conflicts with external advice, and valuing depth even in a culture that often rewards superficiality. And your heavy nights are actually crucial to this individuation process. They're the times when your psyche strips away the social masks and external expectations, leaving you face to face with your authentic self. They're uncomfortable precisely because authenticity often conflicts with social conditioning. But Jung discovered that introverts who learn to embrace this discomfort, who develop the skills to navigate these inner depths safely and consciously, don't just find relief from their heavy nights. They discover that those depths contain treasures that transform their entire life experience. Let me share with you the third and most powerful technique Jung developed for working with these nighttime experiences. He called it amplification, the practice of connecting your personal psychological material with universal human themes and archetypal patterns. When you're lying awake, consumed with feelings of loneliness, instead of just seeing this as personal pathology, you might recognize that you're engaging with one of the fundamental human experiences, the archetypal journey from isolation to connection that appears in myths and stories throughout human history. When you're overwhelmed with sadness about the suffering in the world, you might recognize that you're connecting with what Jung called the archetypal pattern of the wounded healer, the one who transforms personal pain into wisdom that can help others. When you're questioning the meaning and purpose of your life, you might see that you're engaging with the hero's journey, the archetypal pattern of leaving familiar territory to discover your authentic calling. This amplification transforms your personal struggles from isolated problems into meaningful participation in universal human experiences. You're not just dealing with your own issues, you're engaging with the deepest themes of human existence, and this recognition brings both comfort and purpose. Comfort because you realize you're not alone in these struggles, they're part of the shared human experience. Purpose because you recognize that your willingness to engage with these depths prepares you to guide others through similar territory. But Jung was very clear about the importance of balance in this work. He warned against what he called inflation, becoming so identified with archetypal patterns that you lose touch with your ordinary human life and relationships. The goal isn't to escape your personal reality into archetypal grandiosity. The goal is to bring the wisdom and depth you discover in your inner explorations back into your daily life, your relationships, your work, and your service to the world. This is what Jung meant by the transcendent function, the ability to bridge inner wisdom and outer reality, to live simultaneously in the depths and on the surface, to be both profoundly reflective and practically engaged with life. And for introverts who master this balance, something extraordinary happens. Those heavy nights that once felt like curses transform into sources of strength. The depth and sensitivity that once felt like burdens become gifts that you offer to the world. You become someone others turn to for genuine wisdom and insight. You develop the ability to hold space for complexity and nuance in a world that often demands simple answers. You offer depth and meaning in relationships that others might keep shallow and safe. But perhaps most importantly, you discover that your introversion isn't something you need to apologize for or overcome. It's actually your unique pathway to psychological and spiritual development, your specific way of contributing to the healing and evolution of human consciousness. Those nights that feel heavy with thoughts and emotions stop being times of suffering and become times of communion with the deepest parts of yourself and the collective human experience. You're no longer a victim of your own inner world. You're a conscious participant in the great human journey of understanding and growth. And this is what Jung ultimately discovered about introverts and their relationship with the night. That heaviness you feel isn't a bug in your system. It's your psyche's way of connecting you to depths of wisdom and compassion that the world desperately needs. So the next time you find yourself lying awake at night, overwhelmed by thoughts and feelings that seem too big for your heart to hold, remember Jung's insight. Your psyche isn't torturing you, it's preparing you. It's calling you deeper into your authentic self and your unique contribution to the world. And if you found value in this exploration of Jung's insights about introversion and the night, I want to invite you to continue this journey. Subscribe to this channel for more deep dives into psychological and spiritual wisdom that can transform how you understand yourself and your place in the world. Turn on notifications so you don't miss insights that could be exactly what your soul is searching for. Share this video with other introverts in your life who might be struggling with their own heavy nights. Sometimes the most powerful healing happens when we realize we're not alone in our experiences, that our struggles are actually meaningful parts of a larger human story. And leave a comment sharing your own experiences with nighttime heaviness. What insights have you discovered in your own dark hours? What wisdom has emerged from your willingness to sit with difficult thoughts and emotions? Your sharing might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to transform their relationship with their own inner depths. Because Jung's ultimate message to introverts is this: your depth is not your weakness, it's your gift. Your sensitivity is not your burden, it's your superpower. And those heavy nights that feel like trials are actually initiations into a way of being that can transform not just your own life, but the lives of everyone you touch. The world needs your depth, your reflection, your willingness to sit with complexity and emerge with wisdom. Don't let anyone convince you that your introversion is something to fix. It's something to honor, develop, and share as your unique contribution to the healing of the world.